So I just watched the Donald Trump press event that he had yesterday, and I didn't even watch the whole thing. I had to stop and do this video response, maybe about, I don't know, a third of the way through or a quarter of the way through. The guy's constantly tooting his own horn. It's really frustrating to listen to him talk. He only won the election because Hillary Clinton was the worst candidate ever put forward. Ever. The most corrupt, the most idiotic, the most unoriginal, uninteresting, and criminal candidate that's ever run for president. I mean, she got subpoenaed for those emails, and then she had her IT guy bleach bit the server, which, is hilarious anyway and pointless because she had John Podesta had a password on there and it was password. So everybody already had the emails anyway. They already got them all. But anyway, she got subpoenaed for the evidence and then erased it all. So she's a criminal. I mean, that's a felony, especially when you're Secretary of State and who knows what kind of state secrets are on there. People are always talking about Russian hackers and Donald Trump's friend with Russian hackers. Anybody with a basic internet connection and a tiny bit of IT knowledge could have got those emails because she was running an insecure personal server with basically no protection if you consider what passwords were being used. So, and she's a criminal. So of course she's going to lose the election. I mean, anybody with any kind of moral compass at all couldn't have voted for her. So of course Donald Trump won. And it's funny because he was a terrible candidate. I mean, an awful candidate. The guy's just a blowhard, totally full of himself. He just keeps using the same talking points over and over again, most of which aren't very interesting and are all just tooting his own horn, talking about how great he is, about how great his business acumen is. According to some metrics, with what he was, with the amount of money that he received just from inheritance, apparently he hasn't actually done that well in business when you consider the millions that he inherited initially. I don't know. I haven't really gone down and researched all of that. So, but I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, basically. But compared to Hillary Clinton, I mean, anybody would have been better. I mean, an actual serial killer might have been less damaging to this country than Hillary Clinton. I mean, she was the worst candidate ever put forward, ever. And after what the Democratic National Convention did to Bernie Sanders, who was clearly the popular frontrunner for that party, it's just, how could anybody vote for, Hillary after that, what really shocked me was how many people were Bernie Sanders fans and then just switched right away and were like, oh yeah, they cheated him out of it, but now I'm going to go ahead and, support Hillary. Are you nuts? I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of Ron Paul people doing that when the Republican Party did the same thing to him in 2012. Most of the Ron Paul supporters weren't like suddenly, oh, well, Ron Paul got cheated out of the nomination, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for Mitt Romney. Nobody did that. And Mitt Romney lost horribly, just like Hillary Clinton lost horribly this time. If you rig the election, if you rig your party's nominee against the wishes of your own party, you're going to lose the election. Obviously. I mean, that's what the Republicans did in 2012, and that's what the Democrats did last year in 2016. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. Um, some of the things he says and does, I would be a fan of, but he talked about draining the swamp, and I'm all about that, but I don't think he meant it. Um, if draining the swamp is continuing to install Goldman Sachs executives to be in charge of the Treasury, then yeah, I don't know. That the swamp starts with Goldman Sachs, basically. And if you have Goldman Sachs in your cabinet at all, then you are part and parcel of the swamp, period. So I'm not really sure what swamp he said he was draining. Also, he's got Reince Priebus is in his cabinet too. He's the corrupt uh, piece of shit who basically stopped the Ron Paul nomination in 2012. So, yeah, talk about swamp, rigging the election, I mean, yeah, yeah, who could, nobody can support that. A lot of his speech was focused on defeating ISIS and how he's, gonna this is this mess and he inherited and he's going to defeat ISIS. Well, that's great. Go ahead, go defeat ISIS. I mean, who can argue with that? They're they're psychotic religious extremists who are, beheading people and murdering, women and children and gay people and innocent people as well. I'm sure innocent dudes as well. I'm sure. But where does that end? Is he really going to go after ISIS? Like, for instance, is he going to go after the CIA? Is he going to lock up John McCain? There's pictures of John McCain shaking hands with Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. So, is he really going to drain the swamp? I don't think so. It's just a media event. He's full of shit. Um, he's not really going to go after ISIS. I mean, yeah, sure, he'll bomb some targets and claim some military success and waste more of our American taxpayer money in that godforsaken desert where we shouldn't even be at all. But I don't think he's really going to go after ISIS. I don't think he's going to go after the real terrorists. He's not going to go after the CIA or Mossad. He's not going to do it. I don't believe it. I also don't believe he's going to go after the whole Pizzagate thing. I don't know, maybe. I'd like to be proven wrong about that, but I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to lock up John Podesta. I don't think he's going to lock up Hillary Clinton. I don't think he's going to get to the bottom of why Barack Obama had to spend $65,000 to import hot dogs from Chicago. Just let that sink in for a minute. The WikiLeaks emails showed that Barack Obama imported $65,000 worth of hot dogs from Chicago, which leads to several questions. A, why is the leader of the free world eating hot dogs? I'm sure he could get some kind of better food. B, why are they being imported from Chicago? They don't have a Vons in Washington, D.C.? And C, $65,000 worth of hot dogs. Was he feeding the entire state of Virginia? Because I don't remember that media event. Um, $65,000 worth of hot dogs is a lot of damn hot dogs. I think you could probably feed 1 million people with $65,000 worth of hot dogs. I don't know. I haven't done the math on that, but yeah. So Donald Trump was talking about doing what he promised to do. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly been active, but most of his activity has been, unconstitutional executive orders, and maybe not even the best executive orders that would be in the best interest of the country. He's also talking about ending the drug war and talking about, building the wall and ending the drug import business. Look, if you want to end the drug war, make them all legal. The math on that's done. Look at Portugal. In Portugal, pretty much all drugs are legal, and they treat it like a human health issue, which is exactly what it is. It's a human health issue. And now Portugal has less drug addiction, by some metrics, less drug addiction than almost any country in the world. Less young people trying drugs for the first time. I mean, pretty much all the big statistics that anybody who's anti-drug wants to be are on a positive upswing in Portugal, where they have made all the drugs legal. So, and oh, by the way, if you make things legal, then you end the criminal cartels that run the show. I mean, the only reason we even have a mafia now is because they tried to make alcohol illegal during Prohibition. That invented the mafia, and then and then they're still there now, profiting on other things that are illegal that should probably be legalized. Whether you agree with them or not, I mean, whether you agree that drugs are good or bad or whatever, the fact that they're illegal is creating more problems than if they were legalized. People think, oh, you legalize heroin, just everybody's going to go be a heroin junkie. It's just like the dumbest logic I've ever heard. Most people have any experience at all with heroin. They're just, they're not going to touch it. They're not going to look at it. They're not even going to think about it because it's a horrible, debilitating, life-destroying substance. So, yeah, so his drug war little speech that he gave I thought was pretty much nuts. The wall is nuts. The wall is not going to end illegal immigration. Even rounding up illegal immigrants and deporting them is not going to end illegal immigration. The only thing that's going to end illegal immigration is going after corporate middle managers who hire illegal immigrants. If you go to any corporate restaurant anywhere in Southern California, there's, illegal aliens working in the kitchen, guaranteed. So, unless you're going to go down to TGI Fridays and lock up the HR manager for hiring illegal aliens, then it's never going to end the problem, because if the job's there, they're going to find a way to get there and take that job. You know what I mean? I mean, anybody would. They're just trying to do what's best for them. You can't blame the illegal immigrants for, trying to better their own lives by getting away of, the hellish banana republic that is Mexico. Which is kind of funny because, in a lot of ways, the United States is a banana republic too. If you look up the definition of a banana republic, it's basically a society that's run for corporate profit and gain against the wishes of the citizens. And it looks like Trump's just continuing the banana republic thing. I mean, that's, he's he's no stranger to big money. I mean, look, his cabinet is half Goldman Sachs. Same as Barack Obama. His cabinet was half Goldman Sachs too. Same as George W. Bush, half Goldman Sachs. When the entire White House staff is half Goldman Sachs, you're not draining the swamp. You're not a man of the people. You're just another corporate lackey doing exactly what the large corporations want. So, let's see. What else do you talk about? The DAPL pipeline, right? Okay, we're going to continue the pipeline, but we're going to use American steel. Okay, yay, there's a win for us. We're going to use American steel. We're going to use American steel to build some technology that's already outdated. Fossil fuel is done. I mean, if everybody wants to drive a Tesla, if you don't want to drive a Tesla, then you're ignorant and you don't know anything, because they're the best car out right now by far. So everybody wants to drive a Tesla. So fossil fuels are done. Are we still using them now? Sure. Are we still going to be using them in 5 years? Probably, but only due to government corruption and corporate corruption. These corporations pay their, members of government to continue the status quo. So that's why we're still going to have fossil fuels in 5 years, why we still have them now. I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't have moved to solar power and a fully electrical grid 10 years ago. No technological reason. I mean, the price of solar has come down and down and down and down. Solar is cheaper than it's ever been. Solar is now cost competitive with coal, depending on, specific variables. So at this point, why are we still burning coal and everything else that we're doing for power? It's nuts. And it's corruption. It's all corporate corruption. The status quo wants to keep those dollars rolling in as long as they possibly can. So they'll invent fracking. Who cares if it destroys all the water in your area? They'll go ahead and just frack and get that last little bit of oil that they can out of the ground so they can sell it to you so you can put it in the air. It's nuts, yeah. I mean, DAPL's an easy one. It's so unpopular. Everybody's posting on Facebook, I stand with the Standing Rock, I stand with the Indians, that's the easy one. Don't do it. Just stop it. Stop it. Shut it down. Those pipelines leak all the time. Every pipeline leaks. There's pipeline leaks all over the country every year, all the time. It's always some kind of horrible ecological disaster. And for what? So we can keep driving cars that were designed in the 1800s? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. He was talking about ending lobbying. That's great. That's great. I would love it if he actually was going to end lobbying. I don't necessarily believe him. I don't believe that, I think it's a bunch of rhetoric, like, as usual, from Donald Trump. That's what you get. You get a bunch of rhetoric. Is he really going to drain the swamp? No. It's all Goldman Sachs. It's all rents priebus. It's all business as usual. He's talking about ending lobbyists and lobbying. Well, great, but I don't know if he is actually going to end lobbyists and lobbying. But if he does, high five.